Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, I am from Sri Siddheshwar Women's College of Engineering, Solapur. So, I am today going to explain the communication skills on topic. I am from first year CSE department. So, today I am going to explain the barriers to communication. What is the barriers to communication? When the sender sends the message to the receiver through an appropriate medium and channel, sometimes the message sent is not equal to the message received. This is due to some obstruction in the communication process, which is the barrier. Barriers are the unplanned interferences in the mechanics used for communication. It is also termed as noise. During the oral communication, barriers may arise if the sender is disorganized, uses irrelevant information, chooses words wrongly, or has a poor voice quality. In the written communication, poor message composition, wrong syntax, incorrect spellings, and punctuation can lead to the entire message being misconstrued. The receiver's inattentiveness, level of understanding, and intelligence can also contribute a communication breakdown. So, next is types of barriers. Types of barriers are various types. They are following. First is physical barrier, second is mechanical barrier, third is psychological barrier, fourth one is language barrier that is also called as linguistic, fifth one is cross cultural barrier, and sixth one is personal barrier. Next, I am going to explain these all barriers one by one. So, first one is the physical barriers. Location, environment, time, and distance, our physical condition, and the medium we choose to communicate can create obstruction in the process of communication. The different types of distraction that act as physical barriers to communication. Those are follows. First one is computing stimulus or noise. Communication involves creating and responding to stimuli. When we communicate, our voice and tone stimulate the receiver to respond. However, the communication process can be interrupted by loud music, traffic noise, or any other external noise. These disturbances can parallel to the communication cycle and distort it. Second one is environmental stress. A barrier in communication can be caused due to environmental disturbances like climate, temperature, humidity, heat, dust, rain, snow, and thunder adversely affect communication. Cy- Cyclones, tsunamis, and floods can play havoc with the communication network, making it impossible for people to reach out to each other. Third one is subjective stress. Barriers occur if the communicator or communicate suffers from some kind of physical or psychological stress. When individuals are subjected to stress or are fearful, unhappy, unwell, anxious, or excited, they find it difficult to speak or listen or interrupt correctly. Emotions or extreme feelings can also cause disturbances in the process of communication. Fourth one is ignorance of the medium. For the process of communication to occur, a medium or channel is required. But sometimes, if individuals are not familiar with the medium or its correct usage, then barrier can take place. Use of written medium will create problems for those who do not know how to read and write. Using a language that the receiver is not familiar with can cause disruptions in communication. So, second one is the mechanical barriers. If the instruments or equipments used in the communication are defective, then communication will not take place as desired. If telephones, fax machines, and computers do not work properly or are out of order, even for a short while, our work comes to a standstill. Disturbances caused in the physical transmission of the message Blurred sound, poor picture quality on television can be examples of mechanical barrier. Absence of telecommunication facilities can also act as a mechanical barrier to the communication. Here, third barrier is the psychological barrier. Emotions and attitudes of people affect the sending and receiving of messages, creating psychological barriers. Human beings are victims of bias and prejudice, suffer from anger, fear, joy, and sorrow. Each one of us has a unique personality which is shaped by our background, upbringing, and past experiences. The system of values and standards defines our actions, thought process, and this is in turn affects the way we communicate. Some important psychological barriers are as follows: self image and preconceived notions. Each one of us looks at himself or herself in a particular way. Concept of one's own self affects the way we communicate and the results of communication. Closed mind. A closed minded person has a narrow vision. Such a person rejects any other point of view. A person with a closed mind is not ready to accept new facts. Unclarified assumptions. Assumptions are personal interferences made by the speaker and not factual statements. Our bias, prejudice, and opinions promote us to make unjust or unfair assumptions about others. Some people have the superiority complex and they assume others to be inferior in all respects. Such a feeling can create barriers in communication. Horns and halo effect. When we admire or like somebody, we believe that they can do no wrong and accept whatever they have to say as correct and valid, whereas they condemn those who dislike and do not pay attention to their views or opinions. So, fourth one is language barriers. When we communicate, our main intention is to understand and be understood. Language is a tool used in communication to convey meaning, but language is ambiguous in nature. Words are mere symbols and mean more than one thing. Our use of language also depends on our background, culture, experience, attitude, and location. Words can mean different things to different peoples. Sometimes the usage can be faulty, leading to misunderstanding of message. Use of unfamiliar language and idiom can cause linguistic barriers. So, fifth one is the cross cultural barriers. Culture is the pattern of taken for granted assumptions about how a given collection of people should think, act, and feel as they go about their daily affairs. Culture is all socially transmitted behavior, arts, architectures, languages, science, symbols, ideas, beliefs, norms, traditions, rituals, etc., which is learned and shared in a particular social group of the same nationality, ethnicity, religion, etc. Culture is handed down from one generation to another. It gives people their way of seeing the world and interpreting life. A single culture has many subcultures. Culture diversity makes communication difficult as the mindset of people of different cultures are different. The language, signs, and symbols are also different. Different cultures have different meaning of words, behaviors, and gestures. Culture also gives rise to prejudices, ethnocentrism, manners, and opinions. It forms the way people think and behave. When people belonging to different cultures communicate, these factors can become barriers. So, last type of barrier is the personal barriers. There are some barriers which are directly connected with the sender and the receiver. They are called as the personal barriers. From the point of view of convenience, they have been divided into two parts. A. Barriers related to superiors, in that first one is fear of challenge of authority, second one is lack of confidence in subordinates, and again B, barriers related to subordinates, in that first unwillingness to communicate, second one is lack of proper incentive. We can see this one by one. So first in A is fear of challenge of authority. Everybody desires to occupy a high office in the organization. In this hope, the officers try to conceal their weaknesses. By not communicating their ideas, there is a fear in their mind that in case the reality comes to light, they may have to move to the lower level. Second one is lack of confidence in subordinates. Top level superiors think that the lower level employees are less capable and therefore they ignore the information or suggestions sent by them. They deliberately ignore the communication from their subordinates in order to increase their own importance. Consequently, the self confidence of the employees is lowered. In B, first one is unwillingness to communicate. Sometimes the subordinates do not want to send any information to their superiors. When the subordinates feel that the information is of negative nature and will adversely affect them, an effort is made to conceal that information. If it becomes imperative to send this information, it is sent in a modified or amended form. Thus, the subordinates, by not clarifying the facts, become a hindrance in communication. Second one is lack of proper incentive. Lack of incentive to the subordinates creates a hindrance in communication. The lack of incentive to the subordinates is because of the fact that their suggestions or ideas are not given any importance. If the superiors ignore the subordinates, they become indifferent towards an exchange of ideas in future. Thank you for listening till the end. If you like the video, then like, share and subscribe. Thank you again.